and welcome to another edition of Quoth the Raven. I'm your host, Louis Bright Raven, and tonight we are doing the second half of the live draw series. I started yesterday's episode drawing my character Spacey the Alien. And as you can see, he is not very happy because I didn't finish yesterday. When we last saw him, this is what we were at. And we will now begin here. And while we were drawing, we will be answering some questions back and forth here and there throughout the conversation and through the podcast. Well, for those who have come and watched the previous two episodes, I thank you. And for new viewers, I hope you enjoy what you're going to see. I almost forgot to put my smear guard on. Where the glove just protected from smearing the lead or inks on the paper. Mostly going to work on finishing up the backgrounds. Doing some extra details on Spacey himself, but let's get the backgrounds done first. To get a little more depth perception to the drawing instead of a blank background, make it more interesting visually. See here. And I've forgotten to put the spaceship in the first session, so we'll put that in the background over here. This little rampway. You guys are hearing me okay? If you're not, then please let me know. I'll do my best to straighten out everything. As I said, I will answer some questions as I get involved here in this a little bit. I do wish that people would ask while I'm drawing or while I'm in a podcast rather than email me something afterwards or what have you. But okay, I guess you think maybe I'm too busy to answer the podcast. I don't know, but we'll see. I'm going to try and move my microphone a little bit closer to me, make things a little bit easier for you to hear me. Alrighty. Use my little French curve here to get the angle here on the spaceship. There we go. And there's a few things I'm going to touch up there. Touch up in there. Okay. Another quick trying to find the right angle. Here we are. Whoops. There we go. There's a spaceship. And do a little bit of robotic detailing on it. That'll do for the spaceship a little bit. As I said, there were some questions. I'm going to get those pulled out over here so I can read them over here at the side. Let's see. Some are going to be a little bit snarky. I give you a fair warning. Some are going to be a little bit reasonable, I guess you could say. Interesting. There we go. Ready? And our first question. It's from Mystery X. And I posted it this way, the way they actually sent it to me. So, you know, it's supposed to say, "Why are you drawing?" But he says, "Why are drawing a character nobody knows? Draw Batman or Spider-Man or something." Well, Mystery X, if you were paying attention a few weeks ago, my first actual podcast was on Facebook. And that's one of the characters I actually did draw was Spider-Man. And I tried to put it here on YouTube, but for whatever reasons, they blocked it and wouldn't let me run it. I think it might have been because I didn't have enough time in on the program or something, or hadn't been my allotted time before I could actually launch the channel or something like that. But I've tried to post it a couple times, and Facebook doesn't want to let me post it. So I'll get around to doing more well-known characters in the future, but I wanted to do something of my own so that people could see what I do rather than me doing something that's already known by everybody else. So just be patient. I'm going to draw a little circle freckles now on Spacey's face. Kind of like a frog's speckles or whatever. You try to be consistent with it from panel to panel and page to page, but you know, stuff happens. It's not going to be perfect. I guess you could say it's almost like, I don't want to say acne or something, but yeah, it moves around a little bit on them. I try to keep them consistent. Sorry if the lighting isn't very good. I was trying to get under lighting over here, but unfortunately, all I've got is my light for that I usually use for magnifying, but for whatever reason, the lighting behind me just isn't doing a very good job of lighting me up. So I apologize for that. And we'll try to work more often during daylight hours for video for that reason. But I wanted to get this finished so that people could see what a more finished piece was like. And again, I'm using quick templates just to get this relatively done fast. That's a flag symbol for his planet. Bacharach. And let's get a little more rocky detail here. Okay. And let's apply it into wounds. And I'm going to do a little bit of side pencil brush shading. And the reason I'm doing that is I'm going to draw a little bit of what we know later, or what will be explained later when I'm inking the piece, as a area for doing kind of like an aurora effect, like an aurora borealis effect in the sky. In outer space. So I'm just kind of loosely shading in the area in which that will be presented. Okay. Planets. We're going to have to put a few more things in here, like maybe, I don't know, maybe a speeding comet across the field or something. A few more stars. They'll be more visible. Just little circles. Chances are I will do things a little bit differently in coloring it. I'm not planning on coloring this by hand, as I mentioned in the first episode. I'm planning on, if I colored at all, doing it probably via computer. Though I might change my mind, I don't know. Depends on how this gets inked. Let's see here. I think that will take care of that. And let's take a quicker close look at it. Okay. that pretty much completes the penciling side. And we'll get to inks in a moment. I'm going to be using various tools. I want to get them all set up properly if I can. Thought I had them set up, but I don't. Take me just a few more minutes, folks. Normally, a lot of inkers use Crowquill pen and stuff like that. I'm not using that today. I'm using a Pentel brush pen. Which has a wide tip base to it. I don't know if you can see it with that, but it gives me both the ability to do thin and thick lines. It also helps me do heavy blacks for fill-in space. And I will also be using micron pens of various tip sizes from 0.005 to 0.08. Depends on the thickness of the line work I want. We'll be doing that. And so we get on to the next question. And that question is Spacey the alien coming back? From Dave H. I think that might be Dave Hyatt, who's a friend of mine who I used to do comics with back in the early 2000s. I haven't officially decided yet, Dave. There's a good probability I will. But if I do, it's not going to be like what I did originally. It will. Originally, I did the series as a black and white comic book activity coloring book for educational purposes, and I sold them to schools and restaurants as like Happy Meal type gifts and stuff like that. If I do Spacey again, I'm not going to bring him as the alien befriending kids and taking them all over the galaxy. I'm going to have him on his own, doing his own adventures in outer space, and try to do a little comedy book that'll be for all ages still, but just more of a story driven thing than the educational driven motif that I had originally. But if I do that, that'll be sometime in 2020. Next question is, why didn't you draw Larry Livewire in this sketch too? He looks cool. Mark from South Carolina. Larry Livewire was the other character that was in part one of this series. The one that looks sort of like Wally with a computer monitor on his head. The reason I didn't draw Larry in this sketch too is because, as I mentioned in the last one, I had said they arrived late to the studio, and therefore I'm going to disassemble Larry, and so I didn't want to put that scene in this particular sketch. Plus, there's other things I'm thinking about talking about when I get to talking about Larry, so that'll be shown in a future episode. There, Mark. Another comment that was made, not so much a question, but a comment about yesterday's episode, was the music you played in the last video sucked and made it harder to hear you. Don't do that again. Well, the person who left that was anonymous. Sorry that you didn't like the music. Yes, I understand it did make it harder for you to hear me, but that was mostly due to placement of the microphone, I believe. If I had the microphone close to where I was seated, I think it would have been okay. Unfortunately, I can't pick a lot of material, Mr. DJ, man, because a lot of that stuff is against YouTube policy for copyright infringement if I use other people's songs too much. So I have to use instrumental and other stuff. That's more open public domain. But unless I get some friends who I know who won't let me use their music and give me permission in writing, which hey, maybe I'll do that in the future. But for now, sorry you didn't like it, but that's life. And so we'll do that. And we'll come back some more questions in a little bit. But first, let's get into the inking. Right now I'm using a Micron 05 tip pen. And okay. And there's that. Okay. Trying to keep the line weights pretty consistent for the outer outline of the figure. Even though the character is somewhat cartoony and simplistic in nature of design, you want to try to give the character proper sense of realism and weight to the body, some mass to them. At the same time, give him enough of a distance and depth perception so that it looks like he's properly in the foreground. I am using the same basic tip for a lot of this. I'm going to go back into it with thicker and thinner pens. To sharpen the details. When I get that far. If you're watching, don't be shy, say hello. It won't disturb me or break my concentration. I do periodically look up at the screen to make sure someone's talking to me. Again, I apologize for the quietness of a sort. I will get back to answering questions shortly. Just want to focus on this for just a moment. Okay. Okay. We're getting close to the base of the outline being finished. Working on the face now. Head and shot, I should say. Now, if I was doing this as a comics page in inking, I probably wouldn't be using microns. I'd probably be using more of the brush pen and crow quills. But right now, crow quill would be just too much of a pain in the butt to try to do with the lighting the way it is and how I have things set up. I think it would be a little too problematic to keep my equipment in the area where I felt comfortable not going to spill the ink bottle or something. that gets us our primary detail for the figure for Spacey. So we'll do some quick additional detailing along that with this pen. Okay. Now we'll go to the brush pen. Let's see what's going on here. Stupidly, I left the cap off while I was doing this. So it's taking a few moments for it to go. There we go. I know a lot of these rocks look a little bit rough, but trust me, I know that I'm going to be touching up some things. And going to take a second here, take a little bit of a break, answer some more questions. Varian Grant just asked, why draw on a light box, additional lift? That's part of it. The other reason is my table has a towel on top of it. If you hadn't noticed, I'll show you. You see there's a towel draped over it. And it's just more convenient to have it on the light box than on the table right now, because I'd have to remove the drapery, and I really don't like the surface of the table right now. It's an older table. I need to get it worked on, get a new surface on it, like I don't know, not a rubber surface, but something over it so things don't slide so much on it as much. That's the main thing there. And if I put it on a towel, obviously the towel is too soft of a thing to draw on paper. It won't work. So that's why I have it on the light box. Thank you for your question, Barry. I appreciate it. Let's see. Other questions here. Someone asked, where's your kitty cat? I like it when you bring the cat on camera. Well, right now he's sleeping underneath the table. I'm not going to bring him on camera because he is snoring. You can't hear him, I don't think, on the microphone, but I can hear him snoring. But, well, we're talking about him. That means he paid attention. But, yeah. Let's see if I can quickly. There. See, there he is. He's under the table. Another question was, do you listen to music while drawing, and what do you normally listen to when drawing? Yes, I do listen to music usually. Anything from 50s to 80s rock or country music, either one. Classical, jazz, soundtracks to television shows and movies, stuff like that. Just whatever I can put on the background. Again, however, putting that on screen while I'm drawing live here on Quoth the Raven might be a violation of copyrights for what YouTube's policies are. So I don't know how I'm going to do that, but unless I get permission from some friends or who are doing their own music or something, then maybe I'll do that. But that's what I listen to usually when I'm drawing. Kyle P., who was asked us questions from the last session. Who are your favorite comic characters, not including your own? Well, that one I think I'm going to go ahead and leave up there for a little while I go back to inking. I guess it just depends on which company I get in era. Let's see here. Let's see. For DC, I guess I would say it's probably the 70s era, early 80s era of Batman. That would be the Dark Knight Detective era, before the reboot with the Crisis of Infinite Earths. not the Adam West stuff. That's a little bit too cheesy for me. I'm inking with a 0.05 pen now from Micron, just to do the stars. Other DC favorites would be Hal Jordan, also known as Green Lantern, and Green Lantern Corps. Again, more of the 70s and 80s stuff rather than the modern. Really do not like the modern stuff, especially not the current version where they have Hal Jordan in the Mood Ring Brigades with every color in the rainbow. Just not into that at all. Not my thing. It doesn't mean it sucks. It just means it's not my thing. But yeah, I like those characters from, I guess you could say, the old Green Lantern Corps. Like Kilowog and Chip. And in fact, I might even do a sketch of Chip someday. Quoth the Raven. Let's see. What else from DC? The Byrne era Superman. That would be the mid 80s, right after the reboot, the first reboot they did of Superman around 85, 86, I guess it was, when they did that. A lot of people probably would disagree with that. It's controversial at the time. He did a lot of things that people didn't like at the time, but for me, I was not a fan of Superman history at that point. I was young enough for it all to be new to me, so I wasn't really that embattled, I guess you could say, with that problem that the other fans may have had at the time. But I certainly understand their frustration, as I've felt the same frustration as they keep rebooting their Marvel and DC characters every so often nowadays. And for Marvel, I think I'd have to say for Marvel, it'd have to be Kitty Pryde, also known as Shadow Cat from the X-Men. Would be my favorite Marvel character overall, especially the era where she wore the blue blue danskins or yoga pants or whatever it was that you want to call it for her costume, while she was part of the Team Excalibur as well as X-Men. That was in the 80s as well. Another favorite Marvel character of mine's Scarlet Witch. And let's see. The more I think about it, I was never really a fan of characters so much as I was teams of characters. I was more of a X-Men fan of the X-Men as a whole team, not just one specific character. Or I was a fan of the original Guardians of the Galaxy and the Guardians of the Galaxy that Jim Valentino popularized in the 1990s, but not necessarily the individual characters per se. Let's see. I tended to be more a fan of the stories than the characters, I guess, and that's probably one of the reasons why I'm not overly upset about not working or not having had worked on the characters so much. as I might otherwise have been over the years, because I found, for me, working for a Marvel or a DC was more about, hey, I want to work with this creator or that creator. Well, they're no longer on the books, so don't care. If I work on the character, fine. If not, no big deal. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm not so, why I gravitate more towards the independent scene nowadays. Let's see, who else? Favorite characters. Hellboy was a favorite for a long time. Um, I think Magnola built a good property there. Unfortunately, I've kind of, after following him for 25, 26 years, I've kind of burned out on the character. But yeah, for a long time, I liked him a lot. Let's see, what else? Classic independent characters I like are a character named Dalgota, who was created by Jan Strnad and Dennis Fujitaki. This is a very popular independent comic in the 80s about a dog-like alien that comes to Earth and tries to warn us of an invasion. I'm hoping that someday they'll be able to reprint that and maybe relaunch it, because they never got to finish the storyline. It's one of the titles of the 80s I'd really like to see get a second chance at life. Let's see. Other favorites. I guess since I'm drawing Spacey, I should mention the sort of a source inspiration for the design, and that would be John Byrne's Raj 2000, which I mentioned in the last episode as well. Raj was a robot mascot for a series of fan magazines called Contemporary Pictorial Literature in the 70s, before John Byrne was a professional full time. And then they did a one-shot collection of some of those stories as well in the 80s. So he would probably, I guess you could say, he's sort of a favorite of mine in this particular case, anyway. And the variant says, not saying any names, are there any comic artists you looked up to who, after meeting or working with, discovered they weren't worthy of admiration? Let me put that out there. Uh, hmm. I don't know if I'd say that that would be the case. I mean, there's people I met who obviously didn't measure up to my heightened expectations of them, I guess you could say. But I think I was mature enough to realize that there was a difference between the person and my visualization of who or what they would be like. So I didn't really let it get to the point where I thought, oh, they weren't worthy of my respect or my admiration, so much as you know, I was like, oh, they're human too, no big, type thing. I'm trying to think here. No, I really can't think of anybody that would fall into a category where I stopped liking them or anything as far as creators go. There's people editorially, and there's people business wise, but that's a different animal because once you're talking business, what you think of what happens with business is it changes perspectives a lot more than creativity. I think, at least it does for me. And again, I don't. You said don't mention names, so I'm not going to. But there were some editors. There's been some editors who have lost my respect, and I don't want to deal with if I don't have to. But as far as pencilers or inkers or writers, I can't really think of anybody that really put me off that much. Um, I mean, there's either I like the person's work or I don't. You know, but trying to see here, what would be? I mean, again, there are. I guess there's a sense of some people like I will mention John Byrne, not because I ever had an issue with John myself. I have never had an issue with John personally, but I mean, there's people out there who like to say, "Oh, John Byrne did this, that, or the other thing wrong, or said this, that, or the other thing to me that ticked me off, or whatever." He's not a cool person. I think you know people are who they are, and I'm not buying comics because the person's cool necessarily. I mean, that does play a factor in it, I guess, when you get to know them some. But you got to remember when we started doing reading comics as kids, at least when I was a kid, there was no internet, there was no social media to get to know these people. They weren't even um, in some respects. It was like you didn't even realize these people existed. They were they were just names on a credit masthead or people that you didn't even dawn on that people actually did this for a living. I know for me, um, it didn't really sink in about the creators and um, who they were and stuff until probably around oh age 14, and I've been reading comics since I was 5 or 6. So it just never really I never pay attention to the names on the credits in the comics that much until I got older. I'm not sure why, but that sounds to be how it was. So I think that for a lot of us, we don't think of the creators as persons, or at least we didn't, and we still don't to an extent, because a lot of fans today look at the creative community as just robots. We just produce product, but we don't have any emotions. We don't have any issues or problems in our own lives or anything. We're just there to entertain, like good little monkeys, or in my case, good little raven. But and since Varian was here and asking questions, how did your convention go yesterday, Mr. Grant? Mr. Grant was at the Monroe Convention in Monroe, Michigan, and his son, Caden, was at the Flint Fall Comics Festival in Flint, Michigan. How did that go for you guys? Let us know. Back to the brush. I just got a message on my phone. Let's see what's that about real quick. Nothing of too much significance. No worries. My phone gets silly and brings up messages from hours, even days ago at times. I think that's probably something we all have to face. I don't know. It's kind of annoying, but that's life. see, I've got. Okay. I got back to Varian asking him. Varian says both of the shows that they did this weekend, him and his son did two different shows, one in Monroe and one in Flint, Michigan, were very good. Caden is saying he's hooked now and wants to do another convention as soon as possible. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Caden is, I believe, 9. And it's great that fans out there support someone that young. I'm glad to hear that he had a good show. And it says, couldn't even complain about the cosplayers because they all had bags in their hands and were happily making purchases from the various types of vendors. I'm glad to hear that, glad to see that. That's the way it should be. Nothing wrong with having cosplayers at shows as long as they're participating and interacting with vendors and artists and supporting the people that make our shows what they are, because without the creators and without the vendors, you don't have anything for the cosplayers to be dressing up as and to be supporting. So it's good to hear that at least those two shows, that the cosplayers were supporting the talent and the attending vendors. Glad to hear that. Let's see. Do we have any more questions? Joe W. asks, what TV shows are you currently planning to watch with the new season? Well, I'm not much of a TV watcher, to be honest. I'm often spending too much time on the internet, to be honest. But let's see. I watch a lot of wrestling, which, okay, that's fine. Takes up a lot of my TV, as well as sports. Sometimes I watch college football, specifically Central Michigan, University of Michigan, Michigan State, and Louisiana State. Sometimes Hawaii when they're on TV as well. Pro football, I'm not so much into the NFL that much anymore. I don't know. If I feel like it, I'll watch the NFL, but I'm not really a fan of any of the teams. Baseball, I'll watch the College World Series. I watch the Cubs and I watch the Detroit Tigers. Tigers doing terrible this year, and the Cubs, well, they've been doing good lately. And as far as the last few years, won the World Series, getting into the playoffs each year. probably going to make the playoffs again this year as a wild card. Maybe even get a chance to take over the Central Division if they can beat the Cardinals later this week. That would be nice, but we'll see. Yeah, that's about it as far as the sports I watch. Sometimes I'll watch some mixed martial arts as well, but you know, so that's that. I'm interested in seeing the upcoming season of NCIS to see what they do with bringing back the Ziva David character. That's going to be next week. And I'm sort of interested in the new Stumptown series with Colby Smulders as the lead character. That's based off of a comic book by Greg Rucka. And I never actually read the comic, but I do know it's based off the comic. So I'll probably think about checking that out, but that's on a Wednesday, and they've already got 2 or 3 different wrestling shows to try and watch on Wednesday nights, so I don't know how committed I'll be to that or not. Unfortunately, I don't have a DVR on my television. I'm poor, and my TV is outmoded. Let's see. Sometimes I'll watch concerts on MTV or CMT or Access TV, depending on the act. Let's see. But a lot of what I'd like to watch, unfortunately, is on those other television networks that you got to pay for, like Netflix and Hulu and the new Disney Plus and so on. And I just don't have really the money or the technology access to support that stuff. So I'm missing out on the stuff I probably would watch, whether that's some of the Marvel TV shows or the Mandalorian series that's coming out, or I haven't seen the second season of Star Trek Discovery yet. I did see the first. I got it on DVD, and I'll probably have to wait till it comes on DVD to get the second season. Stuff like that. This happens to be the way it is. Not the end of the world. But again, for me, for Little Raven, no money. Sad. You can send me money and maybe I can buy you stuff. I'm kidding. You want to buy something, support me, you can go ahead and commission something or buy something. I'll tell you how to do that in a little bit, but let's focus on getting this art done. Okay. That is the email address you can send me queries for commissions, or if you want to ask me questions about anything about my work or about pop culture. Quoth the Raven, LBR72 at gmail.com. Please include whether or not you want your name read on the air if you do decide to send me an email. I cannot guarantee I will answer your question live on air. It depends on what you ask and how you ask it. But if you're genuinely polite and courteous, chances are I will read your question and answer you on the show. There we go. Yeah. Okay. Another question from Joe W. Seen any good movies lately? I don't know. Lately, how recent is lately? I don't get to go to the movies all that often, Joe. Let's see, I think the last one I saw in the theater was Godzilla King of the Monsters. That was what, May or June of this year? I don't, it's been a while. Anyway, um, I am kind of interested in seeing the new Ad Astra movie with Brad Pitt in it that comes out this week, but I don't know yet. Just depends on my schedule and when other people are available to go because I don't like to go to the movies by myself. And if my typical uh, people that I tend to go to the movies with either don't want to see it or don't have time, well, then I just don't get to see it in the theater. I just wait for it to come out on DVD. I do that a lot. I mean, they're just movies. It's not the end of the world, one way or the other. So I don't make a big deal one way or the other if I see them. Let's see. I was, after Ad Astra, I'm really not sure if there's anything else that's coming out in theaters until maybe the next Star Wars movie in December. I don't know. Just not really, like I said, just not that much of a movie guy. Not that there's anything wrong with going to the movies or anything. Like I said, I don't like to go to them myself, and I got used to not going. Once my parents got sick, and I had to take care of them for many years by myself, I just didn't have time. The only time I really went was when I had free passes to go, which was not all that often. And now I go pretty much whenever one of my two friends wants to go. And we all want to see the same thing, and or at least two of us want to go see it. So that's usually when I go see something. So when one of them want to go see it. So, is there a movie that any of you out there who might be watching think I should be going to see and why? You can go ahead and put that in the comment section. Might be something for me to consider. Or, again, you can make mention of it at the address posted above. Or now, actually, in the bottom right corner, or bottom left corner, rather. Let's see. What else we got here? I'm sorry. I keep stepping on my kitty cat. He's at my feet. He's trying to sleep and getting stepped on. Not good. are almost done with the inking. I don't know how long I've actually been on. Let me check and see real quick. Oh, almost time for our time limit of 2 hours. So I better hurry and finish this up for you. So let's get this done up. And we're almost done here. Just gotta find the other template that I need. Ah, there it is. And I think that will do it then. Just a quick look-see at it again. there might be a little bit more touch up after this, but this is 99% done. The thing I would do is maybe I got to ink his name in there on his armor here real quick. Oops, wrong pen. There we go. But yeah, that's pretty much it then. So thank you for watching. We appreciate that. Varian says real quick, it's just movies, but I need that theater going experience. Well, I'm not much for going unless I have people to go with. So, that's what I'm getting at. I don't have a whole lot of people that want to go to the movies, and I don't like going by myself. So that's all that is. But, if I had a kid like yours, Caden, I'd love to take the kid to the movies and see different things with him and see what his experience, how he saw different things would be too. So it's a little bit different. But I think that's all that really adds up to there. So again, I want to thank everybody for watching. If you have any questions for future editions, or if you'd like to commission the piece you just saw illustrated, or purchase it, or commission something else from me in the future, you can reach me at quotheravenlbr72@gmail.com. And I think, sorry about that, we're almost done here. So let's go ahead and quickly get our sign up, pardon me, for what we need to be sharing. And that will be what I have for today. And until then, I'll see you guys next Thursday at 9 p.m. Thanks for watching. Quoth the Raven, nevermore.